Welcome to DM Commentary, segment 18. I'm Chris
remaining
Perkins.
skeleton will attack the bard since he's already there, and a 12 is not going to do
Watch
it.
my back while I try to.
Look at that, they've all but obliterated the skeletons.
I love that it's raining outside, by the way.
Yeah,
That makes this all the better. Indoors playing games.
Like we do deserve to be
He'll
here.
come over
Yeah.
here.
Are you gonna be giving up your game room?
Yes, the rain
Alright.
justifies our
Hello,
cave-dwelling
guys.
game playing.
3 of them will attack the bard.
But probably.
Miss, hit, hit.
Uh-oh.
The bard takes a total of 4 points of damage and has 2 of them stuck to him.
Not too bad, but not pleasurable. Wink, wink.
So the whole point of this encounter was to introduce the guys to their characters' abilities a little bit more, to throw them in a combat situation with numerous antagonists so that they would have plenty of opportunities to use powers of different types.
That's a miss. A second attack on blue bell.
They actually stayed together pretty well. I mean, they didn't actually spread out and use as much of the room as was available.
Oh, there you go. Then we
Part of that may have been that the orc skeletons acted soon enough that they could kind of walk out into the middle of the room to confront the characters, so all of the fight was pretty much centered around them. If the initiative had played out a little differently, it's possible they may have been more spread out. I don't know.
any attack that you do, whether it's
It would be fun to run this encounter again with another group to see how well they do by comparison.
at them. If you took a step back, you would not be in range to use your swords.
If I cast Cloud of Darkness, that doesn't actually do any damage to them. I'm sort of wasting a turn.
The other day, in order to open up some map space for my ongoing campaign, I had to, very sadly and regretfully, erase these battle maps on which I had done these fantastic Orc Slayer tomb maps.
That one already. Have you
I
got
think that's my only multiple.
I was thinking about keeping them as a memento,
Jaws of the Wolf?
but I needed the map space for my own campaign.
I can only
They're all
attack
only one creature.
guy.
Okay.
Teacher?
Yeah.
May I go to the bathroom?
Absolutely.
Should I take this off, or are you guys going to record it all?
You can just turn off the switch on the...
I like to hear it. Leave it.
And here Doug goes to the bathroom, with the mic off, we hope.
in the toilet.
What did you step in?
I don't know what's going on.
When we were doing this, we all had these microphone units attached to us, and then microphone wires strung under our shirts and fastened in very surreptitious locations so that you couldn't see them on camera.
Nice. These people are up here drinking all the
I'll
time.
do
right?
hit and run, I guess.
That's an interesting one. Okay, this is actually cool because it says, first you make your attack, blah, blah, blah. If you move in the same turn as this attack, leaving the first square adjacent to a target does not provoke an opportunity, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Oh, interesting. I'm going to tell you something about the ranger that's kind of cool. A ranger has an ability called Quarry.
At this point in time, I tell Tom about an ability that he has as a ranger that he hasn't been using called Hunter's Quarry.
Point to a creature and say, you are my quarry.
This is an iconic ranger ability, and since this is really the first main combat encounter, if he hadn't discovered it on his character sheet by this time, I almost certainly would have pointed it out and do.
Like attack one of these guys and then like move away from it without provoking an attack from that guy.
I can't remember whether I remembered he had it back in the Shadowhunter bat and just chose not to tell him, or if it didn't actually occur to me until now that, hey, Bluebell's a ranger, he should be using his Hunter's Quarry.
If you hit him, not only do you regular damage, but you get to roll an extra d6 damage on top of it.
I'm going to hit the guy closest to the rune,
Okay.
giving those guys a
Perfect.
little cover to work on the rune,
All right.
on the decoding or whatever it is they're
Yeah.
doing.
As I mentioned in the previous segment, I wanted to make sure this adventure included at least a couple iconic D&D monsters. The Dead Beholder was one, although of course it doesn't do anything except
Because if you hit, you get a
stink.
bonus to your armor class.
And the Sturges were the other. And the Sturges are nice because they have a really simple, cool shtick. They grab onto you and they suck out your blood.
So roll.
I made them individually weaker than the versions that appear in the monster manual, reducing their hit points and damage slightly.
Plus 7 is 7.
Mostly because I wanted a lot of them on the board, and it would have been grossly unfair to put 8 Sturges on the board and expect these guys to actually take them out
There's a d6.
without losing a character.
D8 looks like a diamond kind of deal. That's a d10.
And contrary to the popular opinion of my players, I am not out to kill the characters.
And add What's that, 4?
So a 3 and a 3.
And 4 is 10.
Although having said that, I may be the only DM in history who has, in a 4th edition game, scored a double TPK in one session.
These guys are hardy.
Your turn.
Good day's work. Ranrock?
All right,
just
Steel.
I wonder, I have 2 bloodsuckers on me. I must be
Oh,
freaking
that's right.
out.
Thank you.
What
You
if I
take some
stumble
damage.
backwards into the runes in horror of what's going on?
Nothing but fun. I assure you.
I wish Steel Diamond had stumbled back into the ruins.
You take 3 points.
That would have been hilarious.
So first, I'm going to do a minor action, which I believe wouldn't get in the way.
I would have ruled, by the way, that if he had actually done that, if Steel Diamond had gone screaming into the magic circle to see what would happen, there was a damage dealing effect on anyone who enters the circle.
Which is +5. Does that mean I get a healing?
Basically, they take fire damage.
Modifier, or I just get the
I would have made the Sturges on him take fire damage too, so that would have been actually kind of cool. Taking damage for yourself to damage the creatures attached to you.
So I am having a good time with that, and then
Anytime a player wants to have his character do something that
do I swing a sword?
You can.
on the surface seems kind of retarded, but actually has some tactical value to it, I'm totally for it, and I will give them whatever advantage I can to make them do these rotten things to themselves.
Just shift away. You don't.
Alas, Steel Diamond did not throw himself into the magic circle.
I guess these 2 guys go with me.
This guy and this guy.
Okay,
They're
and then I'm
your- they're your
going
buddies.
to stab myself in the throat, I guess. Which is just a +3. I wonder if I should do something special, because that might not be enough. Was arranged. Yeah, just in case that's not enough, I'm going to do a War Song Strike, which is an at-will power. It's a melee attack against 1 creature.
Okay.
It's a +8 attack with my longsword with 1d8 +5 damage.
Great.
What's your war song?
Here, Steel Diamond is going to regale us with his war song.
The Navy. You can sail this out. Any ally who hits the target before the end of your next turn gains temporary hit points.
Worst war song ever.
So in case someone swings at my throat and hits this accidentally.
We didn't design 4th edition to make power cards necessary,
1d8
but they sure are handy.
+5.
Before 4E released, many of the R&D staffers used cards to keep track of their various at-will encounter and daily powers. And the powers themselves were actually written to fit on cards.
Exactly.
However, no previous edition of the game had a card component, and we didn't want 4th edition to have a mandatory card component either.
It's right in front of you there.
I'm going to
Also,
say
we
out
didn't want
loud
to add
what I possibly
to a false perception that D&D was turning into a card game.
have a look to Bluebell.
But it turns out, cards are an easy way to track
Use
powers.
my Tempest dance.
And now that all classes have powers,
Great.
it makes even more sense to include them
Dance. Nice.
as an optional way for players to keep track of what their characters can do and how often.
Attack rolls. Let me tell you.
He's a maniac.
In games that I run, there's always a mixture of characters who use, or players who use cards and players who don't.
When you make an
In
attack,
games that I play,
shift 1 square.
I
The attack against the second target, you can then shift 1 square and repeat.
I actually have one game where I use cards and one game where I don't, so
So just like attacking each one.
you don't know what the logic of that
You don't
is.
have to shift. You
Okay,
can stay
yeah,
where you
so I'll
are.
probably just
Okay, so it's +8 against
start
each
here.
and
It seems
Yeah, start here.
some
Oh, +8 against.
some characters I play are fairly simple and straightforward and don't really need them. And maybe I know the powers so well I don't need to reference the cards.
hit.
But others, like my Goliath Barbarian, I don't know the powers quite so well because I haven't played Barbarian before. And the power cards are very helpful.
Come on. Ooh, 10.
The at-will powers of the game represent what I believe one of the major improvements over previous editions. I always hated in previous editions playing a wizard, running out of spells, and then resorting to having to use my dagger or my crossbow, which is not
Oh, classic Ranrock.
the sort of iconic image you associate with wizards. I would have much rather had a spell that I could just cast an infinite number of times in combat.
On this, you see the bard flailing around with 2 guys. with his flash.
Classic Ranrock, and his horse never comes in.
Circle in front of
Does
him.
he, when I study
Or
him
Ranrock.
physically, does he appear to be bloodied in any way?
There's some dried blood.